Welcome to our deep dive today. You sent over this YouTube video
Oh,
from Escaping Ordinary.
yeah,
It's all about 21 common mind traps.
right.
And I got to say, some of these
Yeah.
really got me thinking. So I'm excited to dive in
Yeah, me too.
with you
It's
today.
just fun stuff.
So cognitive dissonance is the first one they talk about,
Okay.
and they use that. Aesop's fable,
Right.
the fox and the grapes.
The Fox and the Grapes.
Yeah,
Classic.
to illustrate this.
That's a good one.
So if I'm understanding this right, it's not just about like wanting what you can't have.
Mm-hmm.
It's about changing your beliefs to match your reality,
Okay.
even if that means devaluing something you once really desired.
Exactly. That's it.
Wow.
So think about it this way.
Okay.
You know when you've bought something
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to justify it,
Oh, yeah.
even though
Like it wasn't
really in the
budget,
Yeah.
that new gadget, or whatever you
Yeah.
tell yourself.
Wow.
You know, I work hard. I deserve a treat.
Exactly.
That's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. It's like your brain's tricking you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's trying to make you feel better.
Yeah. So how can we become more aware of this?
I think the first step is noticing when you're rationalizing.
Okay.
You feel that little twinge.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, am I trying to convince myself of this
Oh.
to avoid feeling bad
Yeah.
about a decision I made?
That's great advice. And you know what makes me think of the next bias?
Yeah.
The spotlight effect.
Ah, yeah.
This one's all about feeling like everyone's watching you
Everyone's watching.
all the time.
Yeah.
I know I've definitely been there.
Oh, I think we all have.
Like when you trip and spill your coffee
Oh, yeah.
in a crowded place.
It feels like the whole world stops
Yes.
and stares.
And it feels like everyone saw and is judging you.
Yeah, but the reality is they probably didn't even notice.
Right. Like
Right.
they're all caught up
Yeah, they're in their own world.
in their own thing. So that's kind of freeing.
It is liberating.
To know
that-
you can relax a bit.
Yeah.
Worry less about what people think.
So then, that leads right into the anchoring effect.
The anchoring effect.
And the video talks about how this is often used in marketing
Oh, yeah?
and negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's really relevant
super relevant.
to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's our tendency to fixate on that first piece of information we get,
Right.
even if it's completely random.
Like that example in the video with the redwood trees.
Yeah,
Just hearing that number really influenced their guesses.
yeah. They were anchored to it.
Hey, that-
So like, how does this play out in a salary negotiation?
Well, think about it. The first number that gets thrown out there,
Yeah,
whether it's yours
Yeah.
or the employer's,
right.
that sets the stage.
So how do you avoid that, being anchored
you-
to that first number?
I think the key is knowing your worth.
Okay.
Do your research. And if you can, try to be the first to propose a number.
Oh, so you set the anchor. That's a good tip. All right, so the next one is the halo effect.
Ah, the halo effect.
And this one's all about how one positive trait can color your perception
Okay.
of someone
Yeah.
or something like that.
Like in the video, with the two lists of characteristics,
Yeah.
same traits, different order.
Mm-hmm.
The positive traits first, much more favorable impression.
And makes me think of like those online reviews.
Oh, yeah.
If the first few were good, you're more likely to be swayed,
Mm-hmm.
even if there's some negatives later.
Right, because that first impression creates that halo that
Yeah.
kind of extends
Yeah.
to everything else.
So how do we see through that?
See through the halo. It's about being a critical thinker.
Okay.
Don't just rely on those first impressions.
Mm-hmm.
Look for evidence.
Okay.
Be willing to challenge your initial assumptions.
All right. Good advice. Now, for all the gamblers out there, this next one
Okay.
might hit close to home.
No, what is it?
The gambler's fallacy.
The gambler's fallacy.
And this is that belief that past events
Yeah.
can influence the outcome
Okay.
of random events.
Right.
So it's like thinking, if a coin's landed on heads, like 5 times in a row,
Yeah.
that tails is due.
It's got to be tails this time.
Yeah.
But
It's still 50-50.
exactly.
Yeah.
Each flip is independent.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what happened before.
Okay, so what's the takeaway here?
The takeaway is random is random.
Okay.
The past doesn't predict the future.
Mhm.
Don't let those wins and losses cloud your judgment.
That's good advice. All right, speaking of being mindful, let's talk about the contrast effect.
Okay.
So this is how our perceptions of value are relative,
Okay.
and they can be manipulated.
Right.
Use that example of leather seats
Oh, yeah.
in the video.
In the car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when it's presented as an upgrade to an $80,000 car, $3,000 for leather seats.
Yeah.
Might seem reasonable,
It does.
but if you're buying them
Well,
on their own, you'd probably think twice.
probably not.
Yeah.
A good point. It's all about context. So
Exactly.
like those sale signs,
Okay.
you see everywhere, 20% off. Might seem like a good deal,
Right.
but only if. The original price was fair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we avoid this trap? I think you got to focus on the absolute value of
Yeah.
something, not just how it compares.
Mm-hmm.
Do your research.
Okay.
Know what you need. Know your budget.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to walk away.
All right. So now let's talk about confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias.
I think we've all experienced this.
Oh, yeah.
This is our tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs.
Reinforces what we already
So-
believe.
right, yeah.
Exactly.
And we ignore anything that contradicts them.
We'll just kind of brush it aside.
Like that saying, you see what you want to see.
Exactly.
So how do we break free from that?
Break free from that cycle.
Yeah.
I think it's about seeking out different perspectives.
Okay.
Even if they challenge your views,
Mm.
be open to new information.
And be willing to change your mind
Okay.
if the evidence is there.
I love that. Now, have you ever had that weird experience where you learn a new word or like encounter something for the first time
Okay.
and then suddenly you start seeing it everywhere?
Oh, yeah.
That's the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon.
The Bader-Meinhof phenomenon.
It's not that it's appearing more. It's just your brain is primed
Oh,
to notice it.
Like it's got a new filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good reminder
Okay.
to be open
Mm-hmm.
to new experiences
Mm.
and pay attention.
Yeah. To the world around you.
Yeah. Now, this next bias,
Okay.
I think we can all relate to,
Yeah, but
the Zeigarnik effect.
the Zeigarnik effect.
This is our tendency to remember incomplete tasks
Yeah.
more than completed ones.
So it's like that nagging feeling of
Yeah.
unfinished business that's in the back of your mind.
Yeah. It's like you start a project and don't finish it,
Right.
or you have a conversation that ends abruptly.
Yeah.
Those things stick with us.
They do.
Yeah. And the video says that simply having a plan
Okay.
to complete the task
Okay.
can be just as effective
Oh, interesting.
as actually finishing it
Okay.
when it comes to alleviating that feeling.
So just getting it out of your head
Yeah.
and onto paper.
So if my to-do list is stressing me out, just taking a few minutes
Yeah.
to like write it all down
Yeah.
and make a plan
Make a plan.
can help me feel better.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay, so the next bias is the paradox of choice.
Okay.
And this is something I've been thinking a lot about
Oh, yeah.
lately with so many options
Yeah.
available to us today.
So many choices.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
And the paradox of choice is this idea that having too many options
Mm-hmm.
can actually lead to
The-
decision paralysis
You just freeze up.
Yeah.
You can't decide.
and less satisfaction
Yeah.
with our choices.
Interesting.
Like when you're trying to choose a movie to watch
Oh, yeah.
on a streaming service
Scrolling forever.
and you just end up frustrated
Well,
and indecisive.
You end up watching nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do we deal with that?
I think it's about being selective.
Okay.
You know, focusing on what truly matters, not trying to explore every possible option.
So just identify
Yeah.
your key priorities
Right.
and then narrow it down
Narrow it down.
based on those.
Exactly.
Sometimes less is more.
Less is more.
All right. So that's some great insight into the paradox of choice. Okay, moving on.
Right.
The availability heuristic.
The availability heuristic.
This one really stood out to me because it shows how easily our recent experiences can cloud our judgment.
So it's about how easily examples come to mind when
Mhm.
we're thinking about something. If it's vivid, recent, emotionally charged,
Right.
we tend to overestimate
Yeah.
how common it is.
The example in the video about shark attacks
Oh, yeah.
really drove that home.
Just attacks.
After watching Jaws,
Yeah.
you might be terrified to go in the ocean.
Right. Even though
It's incredibly rare.
incredibly rare.
Yeah.
But it's so vivid
Right.
and scary.
It sticks with you.
The media plays a big role in this too.
Oh, totally.
You know, sensationalized stories
Mhm.
about rare events make them seem more common.
Mhm. So you see a news report about a plane crash,
Okay.
and suddenly you're convinced flying is super dangerous.
Right. Even though statistically, it's one of the safest ways to travel.
Yeah. So how do we avoid falling prey
Falling prey.
to the availability heuristic.
I think it's about being aware of it,
Okay.
realizing that our judgments can be swayed by these vivid events
Mm-hmm.
and making a conscious effort to consider all sides.
So don't just rely on what immediately comes to mind.
Right.
Okay.
Look for data. Look for evidence.
All right, good advice. Now, this next one,
Okay.
I think, we've all encountered, maybe even been guilty of ourselves.
What is it?
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Ah, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
This is how people with low competence
Okay.
in a particular area tend to overestimate their abilities.
They think they're experts when they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. People with high confidence often underestimate theirs.
They're more humble.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
that classic case of a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yeah, just enough to be dangerous,
Right.
but not enough to realize how much you don't know.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
like, the less you know about something,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely you are to think you're an expert.
Right.
But the true experts are more humble.
They know how much. They don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And this plays out in so many areas of life,
It really does.
from cooking to investing
Yeah.
to even driving.
Oh, yeah.
Like those drivers who think they're Formula One racers.
Weaving in and out of traffic.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It makes you think twice
Yeah.
about your own expertise.
It does.
It's a good reminder to stay humble,
Stay humble.
keep learning,
Keep learning.
be open to feedback.
Be open to feedback.
Yeah. Now, speaking of learning, let's talk about the IKEA effect.
The IKEA effect.
This one's all about how we tend to overvalue things we've built or created ourselves.
Things we've made ourselves.
Yeah, even if they're
Oh.
not actually better than something we could have got.
Oh, I know this one.
I've definitely fallen victim to this.
Oh, me too.
It's no hours assembling furniture. That probably would have been cheaper
Yeah.
and easier to just buy already put together.
But there's that sense of accomplishment,
Yes.
You
There is.
built it yourself.
Yeah, like that wobbly bookshelf I
Yeah.
built.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but I love it.
You made it.
Yeah,
That's the IKEA effect.
because I put in all that effort.
Your effort
Yeah.
increases your attachment, which
Yeah.
increases the value.
And this isn't just for physical things.
Right? It can be. Ideas, projects, even relationships.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you think this can also have a negative side?
I think so.
Like when we cling to a project or a relationship.
Yeah.
Just because we've invested so much.
Even if it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the downside.
So it's important to recognize that
Mhm.
sometimes letting go
Sometimes letting go.
is the healthier choice.
Exactly.
Even if it means
Yeah.
admitting our past efforts didn't work out.
It's tough, but important.
Okay, so this next one sounds kind of disheartening.
What's that?
The negativity bias.
One negativity bias.
And this is our tendency to give more weight
Okay.
to negative information
Add more weight to the negative.
than to the positive.
Yeah, our brains are wired that way.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, back in the day, it helped us survive, threats and dangers.
Right.
But nowadays, it can lead to a lot of stress.
Yeah. It's like one bad review can overshadow
Yeah.
10 positive ones.
Exactly.
And we dwell on our mistakes
Yeah.
more than our successes.
More than our successes.
So how do we find that balance?
find that balance?
Yeah.
I think it's about acknowledging the negative,
Okay.
but also making an effort to focus on the positive.
So things like practicing gratitude.
Gratitude,
Yeah.
celebrating your accomplishments, looking for good news.
Yeah.
It's all about training your brain to see the good.
All right. Now, the framing effect.
The framing of
This one really highlights the power of language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how it can influence
Oh,
our decisions.
it can influence our decisions.
Yeah. So, the example in the video
Yeah.
about the ground beef
Oh, yeah.
was eye-opening.
75% lean. Or 25% fat.
Yeah.
Same thing.
About people.
Yeah.
We're more likely to choose the one labeled 75% lean,
Exactly.
even though it's the same product.
It's all about how it's presented. The framing.
And marketers are masters of
Oh,
this.
yeah. They know how to use language.
So, being aware of this
Being aware of the framing effect.
can help us make
Yeah.
more objective choices.
Exactly.
All right, now the endowment effect.
Okay.
This one really makes you think about the subjective nature of value.
Okay.
So this is where we place a higher value on things we own.
On things we own.
simply because we own them.
Yeah, we get attached to our possessions.
Like that old T-shirt you've had for
Right.
years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It might be faded, full of holes, but you can't get rid of
They
it
can't get rid of it.
because it has sentimental value.
It's got sentimental value,
Yeah.
exactly.
And this applies to more than just tangible items.
It can be ideas, beliefs, relationships.
Yeah, I can see how this could make it hard to let go of things,
Hard to let go.
even when we should.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize that sentimental value is real.
Sentimental value is
We also need to be able to detach from that when making decisions.
Yeah.
All right, so this next one is a bit concerning,
All right, what's that?
especially in today's world of like misinformation and
Yeah.
polarization, the backfire effect.
Backfire effect.
This is when you present someone with evidence that contradicts their beliefs,
Okay.
and it actually strengthens their original beliefs,
Oh, wow.
even
I think
if
they're wrong.
they're factually incorrect.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So instead of changing their mind, they dig in their heels.
They dig in deeper.
Deeper.
Yeah. It's like a defensive reaction to protect their ego
To protect their ego.
and their worldview.
Yeah.
This explains a lot of those heated political debates
Yeah.
where no one's willing to budge,
No matter what.
no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging phenomenon to navigate
It is. What do
but
you do approach these conversations?
with
They're-
empathy.
Understand.
Understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to win the argument,
Right?
we should try to listen to the
Yeah.
other person's perspective
And find common ground.
and recognize that everyone has their own beliefs and experiences.
Right.
Okay, so the placebo effect.
The placebo effect.
This one is all about the mind-body connection.
The mind-body
Okay,
connection.
so yeah, it's when someone experiences an improvement after receiving a treatment
Okay.
that has no actual therapeutic value.
No inherent value.
Right.
Like a sugar pill.
It's like, no, you take a sugar pill
Yeah.
thinking it's a painkiller
Yeah.
and your headache goes away. And it works.
Yeah.
The power of belief.
It's amazing. So does this mean that like
yeah.
all those
Yeah.
alternative medicine treatments
Yeah.
are just placebos?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a complex issue. I think more research is needed, but
Right.
the placebo effect does highlight the importance of
The-
psychological and emotional aspects of healing, not
Yeah.
just the physical.
All right. So optimism bias.
Optimism bias.
This one sounds like it could be a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, it's our tendency
Mm.
to overestimate
Uh-huh.
the likelihood
Okay.
of good things happening
Yeah.
while underestimating the likelihood of bad things.
So it's like that feeling of invincibility.
Yeah, like nothing bad can happen to me,
It only happens to other people.
right?
Yeah.
Well, optimism can be a good thing. This
Mhm.
bias can lead to risky behavior
Risky behavior.
and poor planning.
Poor planning.
It's like those people
Yeah.
who don't save for retirement because they're convinced they'll win the lottery.
Oh, yeah. I know those people.
Yeah. So we need to find that balance
Yeah.
between optimism and realism.
Optimism and realism.
Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
It's a good motto.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So reactance theory.
Okay.
This one's all about our response to restrictions
Restrictions on our freedom.
on our freedom.
Okay,
So it describes this tendency to have a negative reaction
Okay.
when our freedom of choice is threatened.
Like that feeling of rebellion.
Yes. When
Where
someone
you-
tells you, you can't do something.
You can't do something.
Yeah. It's like this natural instinct to assert our autonomy
To assert our autonomy.
and resist
Yeah.
being controlled.
Be in control.
And this plays out in everything,
Oh.
from parenting
Yeah.
to marketing to politics.
That's everywhere.
Yeah. So understanding this can help us frame our requests
Yeah.
and communications
Yeah.
in a way that minimizes resistance.
Minimizes resistance.
Yeah. And encourages cooperation.
So instead of saying, you can't do this,
Right.
you highlight their choices
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
empower them.
Yeah. It's a subtle shift, but it can make a big difference.
It can.
Okay. The curse of knowledge.
The curse of knowledge.
This one's relevant
Uh-huh.
to anyone who's student. Teaches, communicates, shares information.
Okay.
And it describes our tendency to underestimate
Mhm.
how difficult it is to explain something to
Correct.
someone who doesn't have the same knowledge
The same level of knowledge as us.
as us.
Right.
Yeah. It's like when you're trying to explain a complex concept.
Yeah.
And you assume they have the same background information.
Background information.
Yeah. And it leads to
Frustration.
frustration on both sides.
It's on both sides. It's
Yeah.
because when we're deeply immersed in a subject, it's hard to see it from a novice's perspective.
To see it from a novice's perspective?
Yeah, those professors who are brilliant,
Right.
but terrible at explaining things.
Oh, yeah, they're speaking a different language.
Yeah, they might be speaking the same language,
Yeah.
but they're not on the same wavelength.
Not on the same wavelength.
So, how do we overcome this?
Overcome this curse.
I think it's about being mindful of our audience,
Okay.
breaking things down
Mm.
into smaller chunks,
Mm-hmm.
and checking for understanding.
So, don't assume they know what you know.
Right.
Start with the basics
Start with the basics.
and build from there.
Build from there.
Yeah. Okay, the sunk cost fallacy.
The sum cost fallacy.
But this one's all about our reluctance
Yeah.
to let go of things.
Okay.
Even when
It's not in our best interest.
it's not in our best interest.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's like staying in a bad relationship
oh yeah,
or pouring money into a failing business.
just because you've invested so much.
Yeah, because you've already invested so
Yeah,
much. This
right.
tendency to keep investing, even when it's clear
So-
it's not working.
Even when it's not working. Because we've already sunk so much time,
Time, money, effort.
money, effort into it.
Yeah.
I think it's because we don't like to admit we made a mistake.
We don't like to lose.
Yeah. And so we keep clinging to that hope
We keep hoping things will turn around.
that things will turn around. But
Yeah.
we need to recognize that those past investments
Past investments,
are sunk costs.
sunk costs,
Yeah.
gone.
They're gone.
You can't get them back.
So the only decision we can control is what we do moving forward.
What we do moving forward.
So detach from those sunk costs.
Detach from those sunk costs.
and make decisions
Yeah.
based on future
Future
potential.
potential,
Yeah.
not past mistakes.
All right. The self-serving bias.
The self-serving bias.
This one sounds like it's all about protecting our egos.
Protecting our egos.
Yeah. So this is where we attribute our successes
Okay.
to internal factors.
Internal factors like
Our abilities,
our abilities,
our hard work.
our hard work,
But we blame our failures on external factors.
on external factors.
Like bad luck
bad luck.
or other people.
Other people.
So if I get a promotion, it's because I'm awesome.
You're awesome.
But if I get passed over, it's because my boss has it out for me.
Your boss has it out for you. It's a classic.
Human nature
It's human nature.
to want to see ourselves in a positive light.
In a positive light.
But too much of this can prevent us
Yeah.
from learning from our mistakes
From our mistakes.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility.
and taking responsibility.
Yeah.
So how do we find that balance?
Find that balance
Yeah.
between a healthy self-image
Okay.
and recognizing our shortcomings.
Yeah, shortcomings.
I think it's about being honest with ourselves.
Okay.
Recognizing we all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes.
And being open to feedback.
and being open to feedback.
even when it's tough to hear.
All right. And finally, the fundamental attribution error.
The fundamental attribution error.
And this one is all about how we perceive and judge other people. So it
Okay.
describes
Yeah.
this tendency to overemphasize dispositional factors
Like personality.
like personality,
Yeah.
explaining other people's behavior,
Other people's behavior.
and underestimating situational factors.
The situation.
The situation. So if someone cuts me off in traffic,
Okay.
I'm more likely to think they're a jerk
They're a jerk.
than to consider that they might be rushing to the hospital
Right.
or dealing with some stressful situation.
Or they're just having a bad day.
Right.
Yeah.
We tend to jump to conclusions
Jump to conclusion on
Took me-
people's character.
based on their actions.
This unlimited information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without considering the content.
Without considering the context.
It makes you wonder how many misunderstandings come from this.
Misunderstandings and misjudgments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one.
So how do we overcome this
Overcome this
tendency to judge? I think it takes conscious effort
conscious effort.
to pause and consider other explanations
A fair explanation.
for someone's behavior.
Right.
Practice empathy.
Practice empathy
See things from their perspective.
from their perspective.
And remember that everyone is dealing with their own stuff.
Their own stuff.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's a good reminder. So I think that's it for our 21 cognitive biases.
That's a lot of biases.
It is. It's fascinating to see how these mental shortcuts,
These mental shortcuts.
while sometimes leading us astray, can also help us understand the complexities of human thought and behavior.
The complexities of human thought and behavior.
And knowing about them is like having a secret decoder ring
A secret decoder ring.
for our own mind.
For our own mind.
Yeah, we can spot them in ourselves and others, make more informed decisions,
More informed decisions.
and have more productive conversations.
More productive conversations.
So I want to thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive
It's been a pleasure.
into the world of cognitive biases.
Fascinating stuff.
And to every listening, remember, knowledge is power now that you're aware of these 21 mind traps. Keep an eye out for them in your own life.
Yeah.
See if you can spot them. Influencing your thoughts, your decisions, your interactions. It's a journey of self-discovery that can lead to
Greater clarity.
compassion
Yeah.
and wisdom.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So before we wrap up, let's just recap that full list of 21 cognitive biases.
Yeah, let's do it.
We started with cognitive dissonance.
Mhm.
Then we talked about the spotlight effect,
Yeah.
the anchoring effect, the halo effect, gambler's fallacy, contrast effect, confirmation bias,
Mm-hmm.
Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, the Zeigarnik effect, and the paradox of choice
Right.
that we went into, the availability heuristic, Dunning-Kruger effect, the IKEA effect, negativity bias, framing effect, endowment effect, backfire effect, placebo effect, optimism bias, reactance theory,
Okay.
then curse of knowledge,
Hmm.
sunk cost fallacy, self-serving bias, and the fundamental attribution error.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is amazing how many of these
Yeah.
we encounter every day
Every single day.
without even realizing it.
Without even realizing it.
It's been a real eye-opener for me.
Me too.
I'm definitely gonna be thinking about these a lot more now.
I think that's the first step to greater awareness.
Yeah.
And then hopefully making better decisions.
It's like we have this new lens
A new lens
to view the world.
to view the world through.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cognitive biases.
It's been my pleasure.
And to everyone listening out there, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.